COVID restrictions, remember, have been relaxed across the world. After about 2 years of being cooped up, people are out in full force. And sometimes this has resulted in some pretty catastrophic consequences. Look at, for instance, what's happened in South Korea's capital, Seoul, where at least about 150 young people died on Saturday in a crowd crush. But a similar kind of a calamity was prevented in Jakarta. The Jakarta police, in fact, swung into action and they decided to shut down a music festival in Indonesia's capital. Now, the event was supposed to, in fact, go on for 3 days. On Friday, the first day, the organizers saw a crowd of about 20,000 people. At the time when they were expecting only about 3,000. Now, the venue reportedly had a capacity to host a maximum of 7,000 people for this revelry. But a crowd that was at least several times larger than the stadium's capacity was allowed to enter in by the organizers, flouting every single norm that was there in place. So let's take a look at some of the arrangements. Now, the police say that there was only one medical tent at the venue on Friday. It was staffed by just about 5 people, and this was when the festival's visitors had queued up outside of the tent looking for medical assistance for stuff such as oxygen cylinders. The police also say that the venue had no emergency evacuation routes. They say that they had brought up these issues with the organizers after receiving complaints on Friday. They asked for the audience limit and the number of stages had to be reduced. More medical tents and better crowd control measures had been requested, and the police say that their requests were ignored by the organizers. Now, what is interesting is that the organizers, despite knowing full well that they simply did not have the capacity to control this crowd, let all of these revelers come in with a valid ticket. It is being reported that on Saturday, about 21,500 people managed to enter into premises, and there are reports of people fainting. Now, there were also minor stampedes which reportedly took place, in which a few people were injured. And it is at this moment that Jakarta's police decided to act. The police shut down the event by about 10 p.m. on Saturday. An investigation has now been ordered about the arrangements that were made, and the guests were in fact allowed to enter with valid tickets. Now, the police say that it wants to find out exactly why so many people had a valid ticket that was issued to them, especially considering that this stadium had a capacity of just 7,000 people who could be entertained comfortably. Now, Indonesia seems to have learnt its lesson from last month's tragedy. Remember, on the 1st of October, 135 people had been killed at a stampede in a football stadium. The investigations had revealed that 42,000 tickets had been sold, but the stadium's capacity was only about 38,000. The overselling of the tickets and also poor crowd management had resulted in last month's disaster. The overselling of tickets also happened last week at the Music and Dance Festival as well, but on a much larger scale. But this time round, the police was able to see what was about to happen and shut down this dance and music festival in time, averting a situation where way too many people had in fact gathered in a location where it was not possible to entertain all of them in a safe manner. Now, the police, of course, was late to the party. It was criticized for having allowed the music festival to have dragged on for 2 days, but it still stepped in on the second day evening and shut down this dance and music festival, which many people say has averted a tragedy. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what exactly happened in Jakarta, and are there lessons that can be learned in other big cities which also host these massive gatherings of youngsters on festive occasions, we're being joined in by Mr. Imaduddin Razak from Jakarta as the Chief Supervising Editor at Indonesia's TVRI World. Now, Mr. Razak, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on WION. Now, what unfolded on the 30th of October, it was a sort of an incident that could have actually turned very, very ugly. There were thousands of people who had all been given valid tickets, according to reports, who had all come in a stadium that had a capacity of just 7,000, but 21,000 people had been allowed to come in. So Indonesia is very lucky that it managed to avoid a tragedy there.
Yes, thank you, Anasala. So in this case, it is the responsibility of the organizer who held the event. So they are not supposed to do that. They must not organize an event in a place which is only 1/3 of the capacity, where the number of people in attendance. So it is their responsibility. So it is good that the police did take immediate action to stop the event, to prevent the emergence or the number of people, the number of fatalities, as what happened early last month in Kanjuruhan Stadium in Malang, East Java, Indonesia.
Absolutely, Mr. Razak. And, parallels have been drawn with the tragedy that unfolded in the city of Seoul on that very day, where more than 100 people ended up losing their lives because of the crush of people which was allowed to enter into the district, the party district. And most of these people ended up losing their lives because they simply suffocated in the crush. But the Indonesian police on this occasion seems to have learned its lesson in crowd control with respect to what had happened in that stadium in Jakarta in the early days of October. And this time around, they did manage to save so many lives.
Yes, indeed. The police did learn many things, not one thing, many things from the event in October 1st at the East Java Stadium, and also from the Itaewon Halloween crash also. So that's what they are supposed to do. So here in Indonesia, here the police are allowed to decide themselves. The police on duty are allowed to take action, the preventive actions, if they see a potential of crash, something like that, or potential violence in the event. So that's what they are supposed to do. It is indeed that our police learn from the previous tragedy in East Java.
Indeed, Mr. Razak, thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those insights there. At the end of the day, this, of course, is the responsibility of the organizers to ensure that they actually adhere to the capacity limits of the venue where they're, of course, hosting these large-scale entertainment events. And in case the organizers, of course, do not stick to the capacity limits that is there for the venue, then the police must act. And as they did in Jakarta, this, of course, has ended up evading a tragedy on a very large scale. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.